Okay.
Alrighty then.
Holy
We are
crap,
now
man.
live. So join us, please, and we'll try not to talk about our butts. I'm coming.
I'm
I'm coming to you live from 150 miles from the Arctic Circle, between Fox and Fairbanks, Alaska.
I'm coming to
Michael,
you from the cave in the sky, Las Vegas, Nevada.
and here we are. We got some questions that we didn't address a few weeks ago, and then I put out a call for some other questions, and we got a few additional ones. So let me pull up our questions. And one of the first ones was, is writing the next book still a good way to market? What do you think,
And
Michael?
well, I would like to go ahead and address the rest of it. And this particular individual had a very successful author tell them that no longer that strategy no longer worked for her. Because I want to talk about why that might be true. That she was seeing the effectiveness of the next book no longer bringing in new readers. Because we have seen that at some levels. Do you think it may be good for maintaining the readers you have but not growing your audience? And the answer is perhaps depending on the success of your series. If you have a successful, like we can talk about your most recent situation where you came back to a series after 4 or 5 months and it absolutely, definitely brought in new sales. And then I can speak to if you think the meta size of Cartherian Gambit and how you were thinking at one time is like, hey, we're maintaining all of these, but to speak of, we're not really gaining new readers. Although I could argue that, hey, if we got 5 new readers a week, we'd never know. So it was just getting too big from that perspective. So I think the answer is yes, it does work if your series is popular enough that it's pushing your new book up into the top of the charts. And if it does, then people are seeing it in the top of the charts. And then they typically readers will then go see where it's going. Now, there could be some wrong things with that. What happens if you've got the wrong categories set for your book, and so your latest book is up in the high category for something that doesn't interest them? Then it's not going to help. But let's speak to what your personal experience has just been real recently.
Yeah, we just launched Slave Trade, which is Executioner Book 5. I had, because of the Vegas conference, I put that one on hold. I put writing on hold for 2 months because of Vegas, followed by Australia, followed by Bali. So three conferences back to back to back. It took my time and energy. I did write a few short stories, but when I finally got back to it and wrote the story, we got it online. It came together. Beta readers helped me and to keep the plot flowing nicely, and we got a nice cover comparable to the other ones, and we put it out. And what we saw, and Michael shared the numbers. The As the 4 month time went down, the whole series degenerated to about $40 worth of sales a day. And this is a 4 book series that had done really, really well. And then all of a sudden it just tapered down and down and down. And then we
Over three
published the
months.
new book. And what we saw was the initial publication, it picked up pretty high. Then about 5 days later, we published at $3.99. 5 days later, we put it 99 cents for one day, and then we upped the price to $4.99. Well, that 99 cents helped vault it, but vaulted in earnings because we only look at earnings. We don't care about ranks for the book at this pace at this point in time. It vaulted, but then the Amazon notification email hit that following week when it was full price, and our earnings went up from even the 99 cent day where we had a great number of sales, and the overall series itself picked up. So it was higher than the release of book four. Book four back in October. That book came out, and we got the bump. It was nice. We made some good money, but it tapered off and tapered off. And come December, we got a little bump right around Christmas because we did some promotions, and then January, February, it just really drifted down. And then March 11th, book five. Hey, book five, here it is. Look at this, the new one. So it generated so much interest in that series that it jumped up very, very well. And we've got another one. We get another data point coming Monday and I can hear myself, so that's why I'm and eyeing a lot because it's really, really annoying. But I'm not going to reboot again, which is even more annoying than hearing myself. Monday we have a new one, Bad Company Book 5, which Bad Company Book 4 came out in April of last year. I might have killed off a non-main character that the readers figured was the main character on book 3, so sales on book 4 dropped off rather rapidly and alarmingly. So I'm like, hey, we'll do other series because what Michael alluded to originally was subset of a subset. So we have the main series, the main 21 book series that Michael wrote. There's a number of tendril and sub series that other people have written with Michael, and those were a subset. We did not get all of the Bethany Ann readers. So we got that subset. And of course, if you have a 90% read through, that means you're losing one person in 10 to every follow on book. So subsets of a subset. And we did Terry Henry Walton, 11 books. And then we took them to space. So now that's a subset of the original 11 book series and kill a character in book 4. And then we did a tendril series, a side series that once again was a subset, but it was unique with the lawyers in space. So we started picking up new readers for that series who then went back. And that was a cool thing. That's one thing we were trying to do with the discoverability, bring the new readers in. So that series is the one that I just released book 5 on, well, just a month ago. And the old series, subset of a subset, comes Monday, and we've been promoting it already, even though it's not pre-order. We've been promoting it already through social media, saying it's coming, look at this. Oh, and book 6 is right behind it to generate that interest in a rapid release. Hey, let me get my fix, and let's see if we can reach the old levels. Because I killed that character, but then the readers came back. Book 4 sold pretty well through the year, so I think I have a big collection of readers waiting for book 5. So that is a long story. I still think that the next book sells the whole series as long as the series is cranking. If you do something and you lose your readership, then publishing book 5, 6, 7 may not get you what you want. Subset of a subset. So how do you generate that? Absence makes the heart grow fonder. So we a 4-month delay, a 1-year delay, but we already gave them enough to read. So they have something. They have a way to get their fix. We write escape fiction. Escape fiction is it gives them a fix. It gives them a high. They like the story. They end happy. They feel better about this, about their escape from the real world for 5 or 6 hours, whatever it might be. So that's it. I think yes, but you need to cultivate your readership. You need to be in touch with your readership and understand what they're thinking because they're the ones who are going to spring $5 for your book. And if they're not springing it, the next book isn't going to help you. You need to figure out what's going on. Killed the character. They didn't like the next book. Okay, hey, I'm going to go do some different series. And then they're like, okay, I did like it. You bastard. Don't kill anybody else, though. All right, good. I won't. Have a nice day as far as you know. And we'll move on.
And to clarify a little bit to the end of that, if you've lost enough readers by book 5, book 6, even if you gain new ones, it can look like you've gone nowhere. So if you lost 20, let's say 15% on your latest book, then you've got to gain 15% of your people to even look like you stayed still. So just be aware of the math when you do this. And it is easier to get people into new book 1, no argument. So just those are all things that are part of it. And the question was related to getting new readers. So we tend to look at it from an income perspective. So instead of just new readers, and that's going to color our answers to that question. So Craig, what intangibles keep you coming back when the going gets tough?
The engagement with the readers. My insider team is great because they enjoy the stories. They love it. They give me a lot of positive reinforcement as well as corrections. Hey, you need this, you need that. Here's an open plot line, whatever it might be, and that stuff helps me keep moving forward. Of course, the money is good. It's all gravy. We like it, but it's really getting the stories out there, building the backlist, developing a readership as the readership grows. And that's the one thing about uh, Lawyers in Space 5. That came out, we saw a bump in number 1. And that's important to me because those are the new readers where you don't stand still. Your highs get higher and the tail stays bigger longer.
And for me, the way I would answer it is part of it is the challenge. I did not come into releasing my first book and think or have as much of a problem with believing um, I was an imposter. All I came into it thinking is it was more data that when I released and I either didn't see anything, well, that just meant that my book didn't hit the market. Let me go figure out what happened. So I would look at it as if, the going is getting tough. Where is it getting tough? Is it because, and, I'm going to go ahead and spread the wealth here on these. Is it because my series needs to be revamped? Is it because I killed off a main character? Did I kill a dog? Did I kill a dog a second time? Uh, but the other answer could be, is it jealous people that are in my family? Is it jealous that are in my friends? Is it jealous authors? Yeah, exactly. Point me out. What is it emotionally that's causing it to be down? It could be that I'm just under the weather. I've noticed that sometimes when I'm sick, I'm drudging around and I'm like, what is wrong with me? And I realize, you know what? I just don't really have the energy. And then I'll get what I need to get done, but I recognize that I'm still moving up the mountain, even if it's laterally for a little while, in order to keep things up and keep going. When I had some major due dates, it was the fans that were pushing me to get that next story out when I didn't want to write. And it's like, but I am a major reader. That's why I coined the term whale reader. I am one. I are one. And I know what it's like to want that next book. And it's like, why haven't you written it? And so I pushed myself for those reasons and wanted to give them what was going on. But there are just a ton of reasons why it's getting tough. And there could be a negative perception out in the author sphere of what's going on. I mean, one of the biggest things that happens at least 3 times a year is what has Amazon done to crush us lately? And the usual answer is they haven't done a damn thing, but everyone's running around with their head cut off. Or, I was talking to another individual, and it could be that, oh, they've killed my particular genre, or they haven't, and which happened to be a male-dominated genre, and the Sweet 16 is happening. And if the Sweet 16 is happening, or the Wonderful Four, or the Final Four, a bunch of male readers are now watching basketball, and they normally wouldn't, and so they're not reading male-dominated books. And so just be aware of what's going on externally. Spring break, we've got that going on, so we're going to be hurting. And if you're aware of what's going on in the bigger area of readers, then you maybe can take some of these bumps. And as you have sales that spike and ebb, and you've done this for a few years, you realize, you know what? Just take a deep breath, keep going like everything's going, and worry about it in more like a week, week and a half. We had a situation that happened. I don't remember what months it was last year. Well, actually, it happened 2 or 3 times where Amazon didn't seem to be recording Kindle Unlimited page reads. And it hit certain people. And the presumption on my part is that it hit certain server farms. And so certain server farms would go to other authors. They wouldn't hit, say, me. And so for most of the year, I never got hit with those when everyone was asking, did your stuff? Well, then one time I did. And so I'm looking at it going, okay, well, we seem to be dropping fairly large amount of Kindle Unlimited page reads. And at first day or two, I thought, wow, those are some sucky days. And then finally, I'm like, okay, we seem to be under the melee. So it was 10%, but for us, 10% is a lot of damn page reads each day. And so, but then at the very end of the month, like 2 or 3 days before the end of the month, we spiked huge. So I wake up to this massive amount of money that's already coming in the morning at midnight, and I'm like, okay, the servers have reset. So I've been through it now at least once, probably twice if I wasn't paying that close of attention. And so it just keeps going. Put one foot in front of the other. We've now been for certainly 2015. I think, Craig, you're the same time frame as I am. That we've been through a bunch of these. Just breathe, work through it. Make sure you surround yourself with positive leaning people. You do not need negative Nellies, and that is not a measurement or an objective measurement of them as them personal. In other words, I'm not saying they're a bad person, but I'm saying their actions No different if someone tried to rob a bank if you were with them. Their actions are telling you you don't need them to be around you if you want to be successful in this. And that's a personal decision. I had the hardest time in the world when I had to make a decision that someone's actions was not them. And my making a decision on their actions, how it applied to my life, wasn't me saying they were a bad person. I just didn't need to be around them. And I think probably the Marines would have something to say about that. How would they say something like that, Craig?
If you ain't complaining, you ain't happy.
That's not the help I was expecting, just to
No,
clarify that.
it's you're right. It is the same because you have to have people with a shared goal, and that goal is to do better. For us, whether that's write a better book, whether it's sell one more book than you did last month, and that's I know Amazon has sent out a bunch of incorrect pre-orders over the last week, but they've changed that, and now so that change in the system has created such a hiccup that they're ready to work through that for those people who did have the wrong book go out. Even Tommy Dombalon, Tommy D, his Fighting Cancer Round Two book went out with the placeholder Latin, and 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 here he is just back from the hospital, and he's having to tell his people, hey, don't get bummed about this book. It's go force the update through your Kindle, and you'll get the right version. So it has affected everybody. There is a fix. And yes, it may look like the end of the world right now because you're expecting $1,000 day and you get a $42 day and nothing tomorrow. But you can get through there. You get through it, and once the readers say, oh, "Okay, that wasn't you," they'll come back on board. And that's a marketing challenge, but it is. It just is, and it takes in order to force a change, you have to have a failure. You can't say, well, it might be a little better if you did. You see what happens when things get messed with that are working pretty good. The pre-order system was working okay, and a few issues had cropped up, but now I think the fix is a whirlwind and a wonderful fix in that you don't have to put a placeholder file. So that tells me that you're not going to be bothered with a ranking for that book and you're not going to get categories because they can't check the book. So it's not going to be the infamous short reads if you put a 12-page placeholder on an 800-page book and stuff like that. So you may get your original categories, but now you don't have to put a placeholder. And when you put up the final file, that's the one that's going to go out. And that solves all of those wrong file going out to the pre-order issues. But the transition is going to involve a certain amount of pain.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And we just keep moving through. It is tough. And no, people do not have the same level of success. Some people go quicker, like myself. Some people take a little bit longer. Sometimes it's things you have to learn, whether that's marketing or whether that's creating compelling characters, whatever that case is. But if you want this, then the work isn't as much work. And that's one thing I don't know. I can't remember if we have it in our questions coming up, but it is something I want to say. And that is, I love what I do. So when people hear that I'm working 10, 12, 14 hours a day, almost every day of the week. And certainly in the last 3.5 years, I've had 2 days off. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And but that's because 70% of what I do is incredibly fun. I enjoy it. So that's not the problem. We're going to move on to number 3. What are the top 3 things you would prioritize in year 1?
I know we talked about this yesterday, and I've been thinking about that. It was my 4th book, I think, before I finally got the free MailChimp account and started collecting emails because I didn't know the books would sell, and they didn't really out of the gate because there might have been a minor issue with the covers. But once those were corrected, then
Minor,
I didn't have that
minor.
link in there.
I don't know that you use words for a living. Minor.
But having a reader magnet, something to show the readers your style. I did set up a website and I did set up a blog and I blogged a little bit. It's the readers have to see your style. If your only style is on Facebook, and I write on Facebook like an idiot because I'm usually have 12 windows open and I write something. So any new readers who look at me posting on Facebook probably think if his books are like this guy's a fucking moron. Oh, I'm sorry, a less than stellar minded individual who
You're
doesn't.
an individual who says that your first covers were minor problems. That's what you are.
But giving the readers a sample of your style so they can say, yeah, I like this. I like the way this guy writes. I like the story. Let me see what else he has to offer. And that's a reader magnet. So I think I would have done newsletters sooner, but after my first book released. I'm not trying to build a newsletter before I can show them here's my writing style, because I don't want people just saying, hey, this guy thinks he's going to write a science fiction story. Let me jump on his newsletter list. Those are going to be a low quality list of sorts. So give them a sample, start a newsletter mailing list, because that is your hook to the readers who come back to you. And then third is a lot of keep doing what you did, which is write the stories. I published 13 books my first year. I always acted, I say, dress for the job you want. When I finally got the right cover artist with Tom Edwards, I paid a premium. I paid double to my editor just to get her to go back through my books and fix those. So I paid for a lot of things just to try to improve my professionalism more quickly. So time was my issue because I was writing the books. I'm like, hey, we're building backlists. The stories are in my mind. I need to get them out there and type them fast. I don't have any other distractions. So keep writing the books. Keep doing what I was doing there. You set up, as you go, you'll set up your infrastructure, but mailing list and write something to draw the readers to you, whether it's a whole book or a short story or novella, novelette, whatever size you want, but bring them to you. What about you, Michael?
So yeah, this is an interesting question because I was having a hard time trying to figure out which way to go, and then I realized finally it's personality based is the right answer because as with my personality, typically I might say, hey, make sure your editing's on track, but I realize I would not, as a brand new writer, I would not have listened to that because for my personality, I needed to get my books out there to see some results, to see something. And if someone had told me you absolutely must have a perfect book before you release, I never would have released book one. And then I look at some people whom they need to have things perfect. That's their personality. To the best of their ability, it needs to be perfect. So the answer there would be the exact opposite of the answer to me, which is why I often say, every answer is caveated with hashtag probably. But it is important, like Craig had talked about, but I have heard of people who are very successful getting out a reader magnet, which is a short story of your style. Go through it like it is a longer book where it's edited and you've got a good cover to the best of your ability and to the best of your personality. And then you can put it out on Insta Freebie if you'd like, just to get a few. It matters to get 10 people on your damned email list. Celebrate the small victories, constantly be giving yourself attaboys, attagirls, whatever it takes to keep going. And that is, in my opinion, my personality. I needed an attaboy. So when I got someone who bought one damn book and I had 200 KENP for the day, I was ecstatic. It's like this miracle money is coming in. People are reading and I'm getting my little half a cents. And so I'm starting to create my little kingdom off of $7 a day off of book. So go ahead.
I would celebrate the days that I didn't have double zeros. How many days had
Yeah.
gone between getting a double zero, zero KNP, zero sales? And I had those my first year, 2016, January 2016, I published my first book. I unpublished it in May and sold it to a traditional publishing house. But then I had my other series going and I was writing books, a book a month. And up until I believe October of 2016, I still had days of double zeros. And it was annoying, but the days that weren't, that set up the next day. Okay, I got a sale, I got a Patreon, I did something. A little social media, hey, new book coming out, book 6 in this series, and starting to learn marketing because books don't sell themselves. You can publish the newest book, but you still need to tell them it's out. You still need to tell them, hey, this series is about this. Look at these reviews, whatever it might be. But that's for me also back to the first question, the last question. It's like Michael. I look for business. I'm a business guy at heart, and I look at it as a technical problem to be solved. I have X number of books. You can do this with them. Take this series, take this first book, promote it, make it free, make it 99 cents, hit these audiences, change these target keywords, whatever, whatever that kind of challenge is, it can be solved. So the new readers, and I always bring up J.K. Rowling, is still advertising Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone because she doesn't have all the readers. So there's no endpoint of, hey, I have all my readers. You can still find more. And that's our challenge this year. Michael called it discoverability. How do we get more? So I've set up 2 promos every single month, but I have 16 different series now. A year ago, I had 6 or 7 sacks. I had 6 or 7, but now I have 16. So always a first book in series. I always run promotions on the first book, bring them in. If they like that series, then they can jump back to one of the other ones. And there is so much money in your backlist. There is a great wealth in your backlist.
There really is. I mean, we could do some numbers, but as percentages, so we last year, or I can say it this way, last month we had 9 times the amount of money from our boxed sets than we did the previous year, uh, but it cost us 1x worth of cost to get it. So we had 1x last year. So we'll just say it's $5, and it cost us $5, and in return we'll get $45. So just those kind of numbers. So that's the backlist thing that you were talking about. So, pay attention to your backlist, figure out what's going on with your backlist. And, there's the encouragement. So unfortunately, the 1, 3 things really does come back to now, what would I personally prioritize? Brand new year one. I would prioritize knowing where, and it actually flows into the very next question, knowing where the shortcuts, the software, the best covers for the cheapest prices. How do I use the software for editing? How do I get these things done? So that to me is one. I would personally use a short story to get some email names. I would make in my Facebook is my social. And then I personally, was a very fast writer because I wanted to see a backlist up there because as a whale reader, I go look, and if I only saw 1 or 2 stories, I might not have given the author the time of day because I wasn't willing to do anything like that until they proved themselves with enough books. That was my personal. So that flows into favorite writing or business tools or resources. And that includes software, websites, books, etc. We can go back and forth. So the first one I'm going to say, running a company, is Slack. S-L-A-K-C-K, S-L-A-K. That's it. That threw everybody off. SLACK.com. So that is a messaging platform because we tried using Facebook groups, among other things, and it's just not usable. And in the very beginning, Slack is free. So, I do like to point that piece out. As soon as it becomes relevant, you'll see that, if you want to keep more than 10,000 messages in the queue, then you have to start paying like $7 a day a person or something like that. But it has allowed our company to become a multiple 7-figure company with people around the world keeping information together real time, no cost of buildings. And that's one thing that a lot of people don't really think about, I don't think, is we're blessed not to have buildings. We're also cursed that we don't have buildings when people aren't next to each other, which might be a good thing, but considering we're all creatives, might be a bad thing where we're all sitting there dreaming up stories all day long and no one's writing stories. So we're going to find out what happens in Edinburgh when that happens. So how about you? Your turn.
Writing our business tools and resources.
Mm-hmm.
I went with what I knew. I was a big Microsoft guy in the military. Then my consulting company that I worked for used Microsoft products like Word and mainly Excel. I became an Excel power user. So I continued to use those. I have to outsource my photo stuff, like advertising and things like that. But writing the books and selling the books gives me the wherewithal and gives me the extra cash to do that. So if you can't, then there are free tools online to do software editing, or you can spring for Photoshop, watch all the YouTube videos, and then do it yourself. But having that capability is important. It's just I have to pay for it as opposed to learning it. Barry Hutchison will tell you that he learned everything. He used online photo editing. He did his own covers. He did everything himself because he had to. His wife didn't give him any money to publish. He had to do it out of his own money.
Well, he's also, I think he'll say he's a cheap bastard.
Well, and that I don't want to speak for Barry. He'll be speaking in Edinburgh, so you'll get to hear him there.
Well,
And we're not recording anything from Edinburgh. That's just how it is when shows don't sell out. So that's my pitch of you need to buy a ticket and sell us out.
you need to buy a ticket in order for other people to get it free.
Yes,
There you go.
that may seem kind of hokey, but that's how we're going to do it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm putting anything in his mouth. I'm fairly certain that he said that at London last year that I'm a cheap bastard. Although I think he said it in his Scottish brogue or whatever. It's like,
Yeah, you can't replicate that.
no, there's no way. I would not do anything fun that way. Well,
I
another
do
thing that
like
hmm?
I do like this next question. I'm sorry, you're going to say something.
Well, yeah, because there's a whole bunch of tools and softwares and books and stuff. Oh, you just took it as software, websites, books. I
Yeah,
was thinking there's a whole bunch of them, but you're gonna pimp how to
I'll
be.
do the next question. I'll finish up the. For me, the biggest thing was reading. I read thousands of science fiction books in my life before I started writing. So I know what the tropes are. I know what the things are, and I can go back to them as references. I'm listed with BookBub and Free Books, and I get their emails. So I see a free book. It's like, oh, hey, especially as TradPub is pushing their old series. So I'll jump in and buy it and say and go through and reference things real quickly and say, oh, hey, look at the style. I like this. I like that. Okay, I'm doing this just fine, and pick up those tips and tricks from that. I get my stylistic and my craft stuff from what I consider to be the old masters or the
Okay.
masters in the genre.
All right, then I'll toss a few in. Websites, there are many different, but you can get a free website from WordPress itself, and then I think it's $10 to get a URL in order to just place it. Outsource, that was mine. I come back from an IT background. I've got years and years and years. I've built my own servers. I've done all of those things, and I outsource the crap out of everything that I possibly can to other companies because I do realize as I grow, I would rather they worry about paying people to make sure their servers are up or anything like that in order to push things going forward. I do look at the websites that have the covers, pre-made covers, for different reasons, but I found some great resources there as well as just great pre-made covers. I wish I knew about them in the beginning so that I could have had quality covers for, cheap compared to, I think I paid $20 in photo costs to build my own covers in the beginning, and I could have bought some for 70 type of thing. So it wasn't that dramatically different. Editing tools, Grammarly, Pro Writing Aid, I believe is another one. Be aware of those tools for helping you move forward. Be aware of editors that try to take away your voice. So that's actually, that's not a favorite. That's a favorite thing to stay away from. In those cases, books, How to Be a Self-Published Author by that jerk Martelle, I think is probably a viable book because what you did there is you effectively at the time you just found everything everyone was mainly trying to say, and then you added the missing pieces and put it into a book so people don't have to go up and down the 20 books if they don't want to. But that's also another one. A lot of people I'm noticing more and more, they say, look, I knew nothing. I didn't ask a question, but for weeks, I just went through 20 books to 50K, and it uh, was a BS. I mean, basically a BS in self-publishing if you're willing to put it in. And so, go back through there, and then you're going to find a lot of things that you will learn. And so there can take up a lot of your time. But those are a lot of my personal favorite resources. It's funny, Scrivener, or if you use something else, helped me because I was a guy that liked to create little scenes. I could use Word now, no problem, but I tried in the beginning, and since I was Word ignorant, I would keep scrolling for 30,000 words up and down versus finding out that I could create shortcuts. So I was like, this is too much of a pain in the ass. Well, instead of spending 3 minutes to learn Word, I decided to learn, spend an hour to go learn a completely new software system. So
Yeah. I used Word, and the navigation toolbar always have that visible,
yeah,
and
I didn't know
and
it.
it takes care of everything I need.
So those were
I,
a lot of
I
the
noticed
things.
somebody's post, love making, comma, money in my sleep. I thought, hey, that's this person's probably in the wrong place. But then I noticed that the comma was actually a mark on my screen. So love making money in my sleep, which is completely different, by the way. So make sure you get your uh,
Oxford commas.
yeah, get your commas in the right place, even if they're on the outside of my screen. Yeah, where where are we now, man? You
We
lost me.
are at what are the biggest mistakes you see new authors making?
I see new authors. The most important thing that I see is that they get twisted up about everything you have to do after you finish your book, and it is holding them back from finishing their book. And that's one thing we keep trying to harp on in 20 books. You need to finish your book first, and then you can worry about everything else. You can worry about the rereads, the edits, the cover, all of that stuff. But you have to finish that book. It is hard. It's hard work. You're going to get through the yeoman part of writing, where it's like, I don't want to write this build up, but I want to write this cool scene after it. Well, you got to write the build up. You have to. Nobody's going to do that for you. And if you don't do it, you're shortcutting the readers and shortchanging them, and the story won't resonate as well. So you have to write the book. Write the book first, and then worry about everything else. So do what you need to do, learn what you need to know when you need to know it.
Yeah. I think I like how that phrases because once again, everybody's a little different, but there's always an opportunity to learn. Fortunately, we don't have a situation where if you fail to learn that, then the steam explodes and you all die. So that's a nice way of saying things. And so um I'm just like, wait, I just totally lost biggest mistake. So that was, your side of the biggest mistake. And I do think that possibly one of the other biggest mistakes is getting involved in uh, author shenanigans, people arguing about BS stuff that's not relevant. I don't know. I mean, I don't spend nearly enough time on the social side of my business with my fans, and I spend very little time anymore related to working or being in author areas. I'll jump into 20 books from time to time for obvious reasons, but otherwise, I don't have time for that. And I think that there's a lot of people who shouldn't. Yes, we're in a an area where it's not very social, and we do need some sociality with it. But check where you're spending that time and how much of your life you're spending there. Because if you're there writing words, you might write 1,000 words sitting there with social. What did you do today? Whoa, can you really believe that so and so did this? And you could have been doing your book for those 1,000 words. So just be aware that it is very tempting, and I've watched this all myself. I've watched everybody go through certain stages. And then if I could just warn them going, hey, this is coming up, be aware, you're going to be tempted. If you don't need to do it, don't. And, keep your focus on your business, keep your focus on your writing. If business is not your gig, like obviously Craig and I both love it. They're at 20 Books Vegas. There's going to be some husband wife teams that are going to be talking. Often, typically, it's the wife that's the creative and the husband that's the more operations. But I know of others where the husband is the creative and the wife is the operations. So they flip it. And so we know both of them. So, but you'd better really love that person because now both of you are in the same thing for hours every day. And that can be a bit trying on some relationships.
The professional organizations that you have to pay to join, I'm actually going to let all of my memberships last because I am completely out of time. I the even just going to 20 Books in Vegas as the only conference, because Edinburgh, I've got a laundry list of stuff I need to do for Edinburgh over the next week. And oh, by the way, I need to average 3,000 words a day because I need to finish this next book, which is Bad Company 6. It's the follow on to the one that gets published on Monday. And I need to get that done because there's going to be this revenue boost that I need to pay for my trip to Edinburgh. Just kidding about that. But I do want to see this rise because my target is 40 grand a month, and I'm a little short of that. Last month was just a little under 30, so not too bad, but it's not 40. So what's it take to get to 40? We have to get the new readers, get them into the series again, and then dive back into the backlist.
Hey,
So
let me stop you real quick. And so, Craig, you made that goal your personal goal. You're not sitting there going, "Oh, Johnny over here got 40K, so I want 40K." And that's one
oh
of the
yeah,
things, don't
yeah.
take our goals to be your goals. Only compete with yourself.
Oh yeah. That's it. And I'm looking at my numbers, and it's a business case. It's like I think look at this success of this fourth book. So what if we do the fifth book here, and then let's do the fifth book in an old series and see if we can regenerate because that series never stopped. It
Hmm.
just the readership dropped off to an alarming level. But we'll see what Monday brings. This next week, I expect some pretty cool things because we've gotten some great responses on social media. So we track that. But the professional organizations, they all have blogs, they all have interactions, they all have social media sites, and I absolutely don't have time. So 20 books to 50K, you are getting my time, but the other half of my time has to be me being productive and successful in my mind and in a way with stuff that I can share with you. Because if I'm not successful, if I didn't just ditch all my own writing and my own books, then I become the guy selling picks and shovels. Even though yes, I have 100 books published, but it's still I don't want to become the guy making only money off selling picks and shovels to the miners. I want to keep mining. There's gold down there. I want to have a million seller, which is my personal thing. Yes, I want to make 40 grand a month, half a mil a year, and then a mil a year. But that's something different. I can't control that. I can control getting out books that readers want to read. But a million seller, that's just a personal thing. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see a single book really resonate that way with the world's readership.
Okay. All right. What is the most thing, most important thing a mid-list author making toward an A-list to focus on? And let me clarify something real quick, what the difference between A-list and mid-list is, right? I don't know that, I mean, it used to be that a mid-list, if you go back, I think, to the original term, was they would deliver catalogs to book buyers. And if you were an A-list, you were in the front of that catalog. And if you were mid-list, you were in the middle of that catalog. And it was a positioning situation to explain to people where the publishers thought the ones that were going to sell the most, they were going to sell the middle, and then some hopefuls that you would see at the end is like, oh, well, maybe this could be a diamond that you're going to find, diamond in the rough. And I'm interpreting what that last part of it is. But it was related to the catalogs, I believe, on that. And so I think what people are saying is when they say mid-list is middle of the pack in income, but what does even that mean anymore? It used to, average author earnings $5,000 a year. That's a mid-list, technically, if we want to argue the numbers. So A-list, your name is in the bestseller list. Well, does that just mean A-list is bestseller in your genre? Like romance is going to be a bitch harder to find A-list than, A-list in Space Marines or something, So what is it? Contemporary romance? Maybe we all agree what the term means first before we say it. But bigger picture, mid-list, I'm going to suggest now at the moment is those that are making a few hundred to very low four figures a month. If you're making that, you're actually making really damn good money considering historically what's going on. A-list is you're effectively able to replace one person's average income for your company, your country, right? Because you can't be in South Africa expecting to get United States. You can do it, but I would suggest we all just say, hey, it's related to the country that we're in. So I can replace a salary as a list. And if we go with those definitions, of which I've thought about for a whole 30 seconds, then in order to accomplish that, you generally look at it and go, okay, what is selling? What's selling in the areas I like to write, Venn diagram, and you put something together, understanding the tropes of what readers want. I was blessed to read a How to Write a Western. This is back written in like 1974 to 1975, and it was from the dad who wrote the westerns to his son. And it's these kind of things that, of course, get me emotionally because I can do that as a dad, as an author. It's something I've been doing, trying to teach my sons how what I've been successful doing. And I read through this, and the same tropes for writing Westerns are things that I believe to be true for writing stories I personally like. You create you create a hero that you want to get behind. You create, so there are just different things, and I don't want to go down through all of them, but what is it that sells that you like to write? Learn it, do it. If you like to write stuff, and we had this discussion last week, and I've had it multiple times with other people, if you like to write stuff that doesn't sell well, that's fine. But don't sit there and then say, and why am I not selling? Well, the answer as to why you're selling. Either you're not able to market to enough people because they're so sporadic around the world to what you like to write, or um, there's just not enough people. That's the end result, is the people who they're not willing to, and of course, they're not willing to buy what you're willing to write or can write. Do you need to up your talent? That is unfortunately a very accurate statement. Covers, blurb, we got the rest of it. But there are aspects that if you have a few books out, you should start to be able to pick apart the pieces you need to do better at. It was obvious I needed to do better at my editing. I needed to do better with my covers. When I fixed those two things and kept moving forward with my velocity, I jumped dramatically in what I was making each and every month. And I wasn't having to go back and fix stuff, and I wasn't having to apologize for stuff, but I allowed the income from the company to drive the company forward. And so that was, my choice of how to accomplish things. So Craig, on your side, what do you see?
I actually don't have an answer. I'm going to defer on that one because I consider myself that mid-list author. When people look down a list of names, readers, they won't recognize my name. I mean, here, 20 books to 50K, yes, people recognize my name, but the readers, I sell to readers. I'm not selling to other authors, besides the Become a Successful Indie Author book, but that's just to help defer questions and help people, which is why I put that book together. So mid-list, you just want to keep climbing your mountain at some point in time, and you won't know. It's like, hey, I'm there now. You're just going to realize it, and you won't understand when you actually got there. Just all of a sudden, you'll be there. So just keep climbing your mountain, and it's important, not anybody else's mountain. If you love writing very, very niche books, and that's bringing you joy, and it brings you a few nickels, that's what you need to do. That's your goal. Meet your goal and keep writing what you like to write. Just make sure it isn't, I want to write one book and make $1 million. I don't know how to do that. So we can't help you. I don't know anybody who knows how to do that. Because if a person knew how to do that, then they'd write that second book and make 2 million. And how many times do you see that happen?
Yeah. And you bring up a valid issue. Even between the two of us, we're not agreeing on what A-list and mid-list means, right? Because by my definition, you're an A-list writer because you've replaced multiple people's annual income.
Yeah.
So, but by your definition, I'm a mid-list author because very few people truly know who I am. I mean, it really isn't that many people. And Michael who,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
true. So
yeah, 1 million. If you canvassed 1 million people, how many people would know your name? And
wouldn't be very many.
That's my idea of an A-lister, because James Patterson, Nora Robb, J.D. Robb, J.K. Rowling, how many people know their names? And I guess I have a very inflated definition of what an A-lister is, because I don't expect to ever be there, but I expect to be successful in my definition.
Yeah. So wait, no, you will never be successful in your definition. Your
Well,
definition presumes that
my
you can never get there.
goal. Let's say I'll meet my goals. Well, successful and being an A-lister are two completely different things.
Okay, so in that respect, you're just saying, hey, this is a goal that you do not have effectively.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
I have no intention of people running up to me on the street, any street in America. I really don't want that.
Oh, come on, man. I think in Edinburgh, we can make this happen.
Oh, well, yeah, that's because I'm me. But I mean, other than Edinburgh.
So, but it is an interesting quandary as we redefine what does A-list and mid-list mean, because in the old definition related to catalogs, if we were to ever sell those again right now, I'd be in the back of the book. Precious few booksellers even know. And the most recent time that it happened to me was about a month ago when I was over in London. Another friend was at another book selling convention. He mentions me to a bookseller, and this is an indie bookseller, and they don't have a clue who I am. And then they go and research me that night, and then they come back and they're like, "Oh, absolutely, I'd love to, I would love to know more about this person." But A-listers honestly aren't known except that they were sold by catalog. This is who we believe should be there. And so the definitions themselves have to change. What is it? And that's obviously, we have two of us with two different definitions of what that means now. So, yeah,
Wildly.
how far in advance are you planning your books for release?
I'd
Correct.
love to say 3 to 4 months.
But what's the real
Reality
answer?
says it's probably 2 months because my process is so, let's say, accelerated, and we try to find editing space, and our editing space is available in a shorter basis. I let Lynn know about Bad Company 6 that I'm really trying to get them done this month for a 6 May release, and our backup is 20 May. So that's the book we're working right now. Otherwise, Nightwalker, that's we've got that set up over 2 months. Monster Case Files, that's set up over 3 months. New series, I just pie in the sky, maybe 3 months from now for a new series and stuff like that. So I'd say 3 months with some fidelity. The next month, very high fidelity. But anything outside of that, it's not quite a dartboard, a little bit better than that, but the blocks on the spreadsheet aren't quite fully green yet.
It's interesting. We're changing it now here. It used to be when I started, I'm only working on the next book. So I would know 5 weeks, I finish one book. I know that I'm exhausted mentally for a whole week. And then, the second week I'd putter around trying not to do it because I just didn't want to. And then I'd start to see the sales start to slide and I'd get my ass in gear. And 3, 4 weeks later, the book came out. Now we have, because of, to your point, the quantity, the just the sheer amount of books that are going on, we've had to get a lot more organized, but also just different things that we're trying. I mean, you took over a rewrite for an individual in the apocalyptic area, and you had to turn a couple of these books turned around in a week and a half. But that wasn't
turned around in a week.
Yeah, but they weren't even on your schedule 3 weeks before that. You didn't even have a clue about them. The opportunity came up, you jumped on it, you were done. And yet we have someone like a project that I've been working on for now since Dragon Con last year. So that was like beginning of September. We are just bringing through. The first book is soft slated to come out in September, October, with the second book 3 months later. So we're now at planning stages of a year in some major tentpole type projects that we're doing. So it also depends on, when's the first book. The first book could be, for some collaborators, arguably you could say it's 6 weeks away, is the first book. And other collaborators, I can speak to Sarah Nofke and myself. Once we decided that I want to say, maybe we talked in December, then we met in Bali, and then everything got to business, and her first book came out February 1st, February 15th, March 7th, March, she's already, book 5 is coming in a week early, and so we've had to, or will be, adjusting schedules to adjust that. So we're a couple of weeks, 3-4 weeks before we're adjusting it, but we as a company meet every 2 weeks to look at our calendar, to lock in everything, obviously, that's the remainder of the month we're in, and the next month, and the following month. And then 90 days is probably our time frame that we're really locking stuff in now. And it used to be that we were 9 days. What's next week? Hell.
Yeah. Well, the infrastructure's in place, and it didn't happen overnight. It took 2 years to put that kind of infrastructure in place to talk about. We're publishing over the next 90 days. We're publishing 45 books. So that has to go according to schedule. And sometimes I got hit with one where, yeah, I'd like, hey, I got ready early, and like, there's no space on the schedule for like 3 weeks. It's like, okay, all right, we'll do what we can, but that's it. You don't have to wait more than a month. But that's just our infrastructure that Michael has set up. And I do have we're almost out of time for an hour, and let's forego the rest of the questions. And I'd like to hear you talk about. You just had a new book come out that sold like gangbusters. And what are the secrets as you look at that book? What made this book different than the other 30 books that were published in the last 6 weeks?
It's interesting because we're going to hear some of the same stuff that's going on, and the book itself is called Witch of the Federation. Um, I cut my teeth on Bethany Ann. Bethany Ann is a female protagonist who is intelligent, who is smart, who doesn't know everything, and is thrust into a situation, and they respond, about caring for other people. There's someone that you can look up to, and so we go there. But the sheer, and the cover, um, we're learning now that the Arthurian Gambit covers really aren't playing. Book one, especially, does not play well in Mexico. We've changed and gone to Spanish in those. And book one, everyone's like, it's a demon. Well, I didn't think about the Catholic history of Mexico, and they really aren't that fond of demons over there. Just to clarify, in case anyone knows this. So we're gonna have to redo the cover there. But getting off of Witch of the Federation, I was really concerned about that because it is a magical space opera, if you will, magical sci-fi, and those historically haven't done that well. And when your mini books, we've invested 180,000 words into this, and that's a lot of time to be investing before something comes out. But the cover nailed it. It nailed, I think, magical sci-fi in a way that maybe hadn't been done before. Because a lot of times when I go look at it, you might see sci-fi ships. That's telling you the sci-fi. And then maybe it gave you some sort of a magical symbol on the cover, and that helped tie in the magical part. Or dragons in space. Maybe people prefer to see dragons on mountains.
Yeah.
But for my readership, it absolutely was going back to the type of character they really wanted to read. When I did my second major series and wrote the first part of that one, James Brownstone, and wrote what became James Brownstone, I left the female protagonist arena and went after James Brownstone because it was something different I wanted to be a part of. And so I think that a lot of us at times, you know, creatively, we need to do something different. Our fans might not necessarily want that. And I've written or been a part of writing 40, 50, 60 series. I don't know how many it is right now. And I'm cognizant that my characters are not cookie cutter. They're not all Bethany Ann, blah, blah, blah. So how do I make them different and yet compelling within that same trope area? And we nailed it. I mean, a much, much, much longer book. And with longer books, you can sell half as many and make just as good money. So there's a benefit there. Um, but it does seem like when I go through and I read the reviews and the Facebook advertising is telling me that the cover is working. So if you ever want to see whether or not you should go cover A or cover B, just use it as a Facebook ad and find out what the response is. What's coming on. Um, I've been, I don't know if that answered the question, but I can speak more to
You
it.
hit it for your readers. You have your core readership, and you've given them a lot of different books to choose from. And some pick some pick the others, but look like all of them are picking this one. And that is a huge win. It goes back to replicability, which when I talked about that author who sold their first book for 1 million copies of their first book, how do they replicate that? Because I've seen a lot of authors who are successful with their first book and have petered out. And by book 5, they're selling 1,000 copies as opposed to 250,000 copies with their first book. How does that happen? It's replicability. What you've done is you replicated your first book over 21 books, same but different, same character, doing different things uh, in different backdrops. You hit them with the covers. You change the covers, the paperback covers you made when you line them up. 7 of them will show a nice image on the back. That's a great thing. That's a marketing tool, and it's neat to look at on the shelf. But then you took this now a whole new series, new character, and are replicating that success. And that is something that once figured out is great for predicting your revenue. How do we do that with this new series? And in your position of, I'm going to throw it out there, Grand Poobah, are able to help others. Yeah, people like me. I mean, what's it take to get this? What's it take to bring something else up? Patterson in your career. How is James Patterson having 6 different co-authors a week publish books in a way that people want to read them and keep reading them? So that's kudos to you. And I wanted people to know that you're searching for what does it take to make a book truly successful. And that's a lot of people throw a lot of mud at the wall. Hey, this one works. Let's do more of that. But when you stop throwing mud and you're throwing darts at a dartboard with big circles saying, "Hey, here's a bullseye. Here's a potential bullseye," and you're hitting those. That's a mid-list publisher, if you ask me, as opposed to a new publisher who just takes any books, tries to get them out there and do the best.
Let me you bring up something that I don't know because I've never taken a class on writing. So I don't know what is necessarily taught in there, but I do see that a lot of people talk plot. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. And I've spoke with a lot of collaborators, and I've spoke with a lot of people whom I didn't collaborate with, but we just spoke, writing. And it seems like everybody wants a recipe. How do I get that recipe to success? And typically the recipe is there's a 3-act structure. We do this, we have a turning point, we do this, we do this, we do this. And I look at these things, and every single time that I look at them, I'm like, where's the emotionality of wanting to give a shit about the character? And it's very hard to write that requirement into a recipe because it would seem like, and now you sprinkle a little fairy dust magic on it. But if you don't have that fairy dust magic with your character, you can have a successful series, but you better have a shit ton of explosions and stuff in it. Because what you're going to is not the biggest human emotion, which is connecting with another human being. What you're going to have to do is give these secondary emotions, which is I like lots of action, or I like, a puzzle, or whatever that case is. But the one that connects us, and if you do not know, like there are people who are not empathetic. Generally, authors are. We tend to be more of an empathetic group. But if you're not empathetic, how do you learn how to make characters that people care about? I don't know how to tell you how to do that, but I'm saying you sure should. If you want to move and elevate your stories, then it's, in my opinion, not about always the plot, but get those characters right. I'll get off my soapbox now.
But that's one of those things, and that's a Grand Poobah. It's about teaching the writers that they need to connect. They need to connect with the readers. And I get this with the expanded universe. People are submitting their 500-word samples. Thank you. Keep sending those in. And what I can do with a 500-word sample is I can take 5 minutes. I can read through that, and I can provide some feedback. And a couple instances, I wrote, I don't care about the characters, in 500 words. And what I found from anthologies, I've gotten a lot of feedback from the first few, is that people will stop reading after the first paragraph or two and go to the next short story. And they'll read the whole anthology in an hour because they found 3 or 4 stories that they wanted to keep reading. So what does it take to hook that reader? And that's what the feedback I try to provide to the people who submit. It's like, make me care about this character. And sometimes I don't know how to do that. Other times it's like, oh, just make me. Why is her tallness matter? Because you've mentioned it twice in 500 words. So is it because everything's stored on the highest shelf and her man Friday is short and now she has to go? But why? Why should I care? So be careful what you mention and look at how it drives the story. what I get from the old masters and like Anne McCaffrey in Dragon Riders Return, her first Dragon Riders Return book, you look at that and there's very little description and it's small, tiny interactions between the characters, but look at that. You just cared about her, and everything she did went to build more of her character. It's like, yeah, look at that. Oh, she's going to do this. Oh my God, she's running and hiding now, and just you embrace the character and you wanted to learn more. You kept reading because hey, what's she going to do next? That's something that people will miss. You know why you read a book and know why you love a book, but you can't really put your finger on it. And as Michael has figured that out with, you have to make that emotional connection with the reader. He's helped me with that in a lot of cases by let's tweak the dialogue, let's leave a open loop here, let's do certain things. What what was she thinking at this point instead of just said something snarky? But is trying to shape a conversation, and those are things like we'll see in Edinburgh as we write. People will share a paragraph. Michael stop by. I'll stop by. A number of other people stop by. We have 7 different editors. Hey, here's a paragraph I just wrote. What do you think? Okay, taken all by itself. What do we think? So that's an opportunity, and these are the kinds of things that 20 books to 50K registered brings to authors. We have conferences, and the conferences are those opportunities to meet with your peers. Even though you're looking to sell to readers, you've got to get some feedback somewhere if you're not connecting. Because anybody can sell the first book. You can put out a great marketing campaign. You sell the first book, and nobody buys the second book. I would suggest there's a problem with the first book. And what is it? And how do you make sure? How do you find early in the process that your problem isn't the death knell, that you've killed all your readers? You sold them the book, but now they're not going to read it or anything else you're going to write. And that's the minimum. Michael's called that the minimum viable product, but that's which of the federation. A lot of little nuances there because Michael's Arthurian Gambit series has a federation.
Yeah,
Well, this
whoops.
is a different federation. So we might have got some crossover readers, but once they got in, they liked the story, which is what the first Arthurian Gambit was all about. Death Becomes Her, even though it wasn't edited well right out of it, because Michael took care of that himself, and Michael's not.
I suck at editing. Let's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
be honest about this.
I was looking for an authorly way to say that, but
No, I'm fully willing to fess up.
but they cared about the characters and they cared about the story such that they ignored that other stuff. And that's what Witch of the Federation is. That, but it's well edited, it's well written, it's a professional product that has taken Michael 3 years of foundation and organizational structure to get to. And oh, by the way, it's 180,000 words. I think you said you're averaging like 100,000 page reads a day, kind of thing.
So I just want to point out, since we're here, both of us happened. So I've known Craig for quite a while, right before we had the first 20 Books conference. It wasn't until the 20 Books conference in Vegas, the first one, that I find out he likes metal music, that he likes the same type of music I like. So I would just like to point out, I have purchased at the Whiskey A Go Go a hat that I was there on October 31st this last year, dude. So I was there enjoying rock and roll at the Whiskey. Where the fuck were you?
I was not there. But one thing, we will be in Burbank, actually Hollywood Hills or something, Woodland Hills. I don't even know what the place is. Flying into Burbank, and some taxi is going to take me to where I want to be.
Yes.
For the Nebula conference. It's May 16th to the 19th, and we're looking for a date and a place close by to have a luncheon for 20 Books members. So we're still looking at that. The response to my call for who is anybody going to be there, is anybody going to come join us, was lukewarm at best. So we'll at least have the indies and our 20 Books fellows who are members of SIFLA and are there for the Nebula conference, and a few other people from LA. I thought LA was bigger than like 6 or 8 people come to join us, but that's so we'll find a place. We'll set something up and we'll put out a date. Probably, I'm thinking Friday over lunch.
Okay. I got
Saturday
asked
we
by
don't.
Richard Fox, I was like, dude, I have no idea what date we're talking about yet, so
Yeah,
I
I'm
couldn't
thinking
answer him.
Friday to keep the weekend free for other things. I'm not sure LA time. I live where it's not LA.
You're 1 hour behind. It's no big deal. Please, wimp. Although,
Well, no, I mean
yeah, you.
people and places and things and what
Oh,
happens on
oh,
Friday
okay.
versus what happens on Saturday. I
Oh,
have no
no, too
idea.
true. Except that the traffic is usually better on Saturdays for us when we're
Okay.
there. Yeah, so we'll be heading out either tonight or tomorrow to head to our LA abode.
Okay.
That is it, I believe, sir. Good sir.
That's good for today. We've spent a little over an hour. Hopefully, it's a good one. We had technical difficulties, so we didn't have any breaks, it looks like. But once we got started, we got rolling. I hope we didn't bend your ear too hard or too long on any one topic. I think we addressed some good stuff. So, just write the next book with a plan.
Yes, make it a plan. Your
Always
plan,
have a
not
plan
our plan.
and checking the data. Checking the data. I mean, you've got 90% read through to book 3, and then book 4, you've got 40%. Book 5 might not save book 4 unless you threaten the readers with there will never be a book 5. And then they
That's a
will reluctant.
possibility. Just go back and fix book 4. There's an
I'm not
option.
unkilling the character.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, yeah. Hey, I
Because,
wrote 4 books to get the forgiveness of killing off,
yeah,
sort of killing off a character. Hey man, I
sort of.
did a soap opera kill. We
Yeah,
brought that son of a bitch back.
yeah. Well, the whole title of the book, Price of Freedom. Well, the price is somebody had to die. The whole premise of the book, you're killing
I
me.
can't change my cover title.
Oh, jeez. All right, man. You
All
guys
right,
have a
dude.
good one. Thank you very much.
Later, everyone.